K.
We're coming to you. We are in the press box at the University of Montana. They got us on the visitors' side because there's the daily drives going on the other side. So 2 radio shows at once. How lucky are you people around the state of Montana? Samuel Kim, Coulter Nuanez, appreciate you for tuning in. We're going to get you all set for this spring game here in Missoula. We have a little staggered spring ball going on in the state of Montana. The Grizz put a wrap on it today. The Cats don't wrap until April 26th. They didn't start till after spring break. The Grizz get a couple weeks in before spring break, then they take a break, and then they wrap it up. So we'll have plenty of spring ball talk for you coming at you the next couple of weeks. We'll do plenty of in-depth preview of this game coming up in the second hour, but I also want to talk with Sammy about a variety of other things. Off-season football across the Big Sky Conference. Got to get his 2 cents on Sac State as a potential FBS independent. This has been certainly a hot-button topic that's been blowing up the internet. We're also going to talk a little high school hoops as well. The Montana Elite Invitational rosters are out, so we'll go through those a little later on in the show. And I also got to get his takes on some NFL stuff as well. So plenty coming your way here on this Friday. As always, you can stream the show 1029ESPN.com as well as on the ESPN MT app. And if you'd like to be a part of the show, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. And all guests will join us via the elevated tax and accounting phone line. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Life is life.
Yeah, man. Sammy's got a little bit lingering. He's getting over it a little bit. He's got a little voice, but it's okay. We like his insight as much.
Man, just impressed. One thing that really, really impressed me was Lan Larson and his like how humble he is.
He's so humble, man. It's a fun interview, too.
Yeah, and I tried so hard to get him to, like, talk about himself and talk about his accolades and talk about what he's done and just, give yourself your flowers real quick. And, man, it's just all my teammates. It's just all, the guys around me. He's just really a team guy, and he was a joy to talk to.
It's interesting because last summer we were on the way to the Big Sky Kickoff, you and I, and a couple of other guys at Skyline Sports, and we were talking about potential NFL prospects. Mm-hmm. And me being the cynical guy I am, I was like, man, there's no NFL prospects in the Big Sky Conference this year except for the guys at Montana State. I knew Marcus Weir was going to be right there. I actually probably believed in Tommy a lot more than most. I know you were kind of on that train with me, and Brody Greavy as well. Those guys proved it on their pro day that they're absolutely pro prospects. But a lot of other guys emerged. I got to tell you were right about Larison for sure.
Yep.
You were right about Elijah Ponder at Cal Poly. I think both those guys have a chance to hear their names called, or at least get a call on their phones from undrafted free agents. Efton Chisholm's the other one. I really liked your interview with him, Eastern Washington standout.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think his 40 kind of hurt him, but his film's so good and he's so productive, man. I feel like he's going to find his way into a can.
You know what I think about that 40? You don't look at Efton Chisholm and think Efton Chisholm's going to run a 4.4.
No, that's right.
You don't think he's going to run a 4.5. In my book.
Right.
I mean, maybe a high 4.5. Maybe a high 4.5 guy.
I think that's what you were hoping for. High 4.5.
Yeah, high 4.5.
I think that's what you're hoping for.
But what I'm getting at is you don't look at Efton Chisholm and think, oh, this guy's a burner. So if you thought that he was fast, looking at his film, you're looking at the wrong thing. He's a route runner.
Right.
He's a zone guy.
Right.
Get in the zones. He's a short area quickness guy. Get the ball in his hands. He's going to make guys miss. That's what he does well. He's not a take the top of the defense guy anyway.
How much do you think he's helped out by the fact that he's from Eastern Washington and he's like Cooper Kupp Jr.?
Oh, a ton.
Right?
Because a team – imagine how many teams missed on Cooper Kupp.
Totally.
If this is the next Cooper Kupp, we are not going to make that mistake.
Kupp opened his own door because his statistics were just otherworldly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were just absurd. He scored 80 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But Chisholm has had a really good last couple of years on a team that really wasn't that good. So I mean, that really helps you, I think, just being able to show you can be productive despite maybe some turmoil within your program. So those are all up on YouTube. You can check those out. I know you've been talking a lot about the moving parts in college sports right now, too, with all the NIL stuff, the house settlement, all that stuff. Where are we at with that? Because, I mean, you track it just like I track it, but what do you think of sort of the here and now in terms of where we're at with NIL and the house settlement and how it might affect the upcoming, most immediate next football season?
I think we're kind of getting in a better understanding of where that's going to stand. These conferences are starting to put scholarship caps, which I think was a big question for a lot of the ADs.
And the Big Sky Conference did do that.
Yep,
63 scholarships.
Yep, which is the same limit that they had last year, so that's maintaining. But, I think more than anything, we're starting to get an idea of what teams are going to be opting in. Obviously, Sac State's opting in, but that's a whole different discussion. Montana State's opting in. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think any other Big Sky teams outside.
No one has made an official announcement. Montana State, Leon Costello wrote a letter and basically announcing it.
Yep.
They sent it out in a press release. Sac State, their president has been tweeting about literally everything. We'll get to that in just a little while, but they're also saying they're opted in as well.
So I think the situation with Montana is they're going to wait a year. At the very least, I think they're waiting a year to opt in. Dang, I just had a point on my head. But I think that it's going to be exciting. I'm excited to see what it's going to turn out to be. I'm excited to see what the team, what is it going to look like? Because one thing I learned in the Montana State press release was that just because you opt in doesn't mean you're going to rev share.
Right.
And it doesn't mean you have to rev share.
Correct.
That just gives you the ability to rev share.
Correct.
So I think that's kind of where maybe I was confused before reading that Montana State news feed or news press release is that, okay, so that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be rev sharing. I want to know what that looks like. I want to know what that's going to look like. I want to know what the rev share is going to look like. I want to know if they're going to be rev sharing and how much.
Right.
What are the dollar amounts looking like?
Totally. When it comes to the respective collectives, and we have, partnerships with both the collectives in Montana, good old Grizzlies as well as the Bobcat Collective, and they've both done good work so far. How do you think that meshes? If a team opts in and now they have revenue sharing, can a collective still exist, or do you think that that's going to be sort of a challenge for the collectives to keep on moving?
I think they can exist, but I think it's going to be very difficult because you're trying to do the same thing.
Right.
But from my standpoint, I think the collective is an add-on now.
Right.
So you're getting what you're getting from the university already, what they're going to be rev sharing. I think where the collective comes in play is where you have a Jackson Presley.
Sure.
He's weighing Montana. He's weighing Montana State.
Sure.
This is what you're guaranteed to get from the school.
Right.
The collective adds that on top to give you what you need to get over the top and come to our school. I think that's where the collectives come and play now.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all evolves. For those that haven't been following the house settlement, we don't need to get into details. You can find hours and hours on our podcast channel, both this Nuanez Now as well as the Big Sky Breakdown and on Sammy's podcast as well, talking about some of the ins and outs. But one of the main fallouts of the house settlement is the elimination of scholarship limits. Yep. You have roster limits still, but you don't have scholarship limits. So there was this weird sort of potentially dangerous situation, and by dangerous I mean dangerous for the health of a conference, in which a school could say, hey, we got 105 active guys on our roster. Let's just see how many scholarships we could fund. And if you're Montana, what if you could fund 71 scholarships instead of 63? If you're Montana State, what if you can get 75? But now you're playing in a league with Idaho State and Northern Colorado where they can't fund that. They can barely even fund the 63 that is the limit. So the Big Sky did put a scholarship limit on this thing. They're saying 63 scholarships. That's the most you can possibly have. So I think that creates equity, at least for this upcoming football season.
Yeah. But there's still not unequitable, but there's still pros that you get out of Montana State.
No doubt.
With opting in.
Sure.
With being able to rev share. With being able to, there's a whole host of things that come with Montana State. So I think it's going to be exciting. And the biggest thing for me is I just want to see what it looks like in practice.
Yes.
I want to see it for the first year. I want to see what it's going to look like. And,
Could this bring more stability to this college landscape, do you think?
In terms of what?
I'm just wondering, we've seen such chaos with so much movement. Mm-hmm. I just wonder if it provides a little bit of stability, because I think so often guys jump from specifically this level, the Big Sky Conference, into the portal. There's the guys that are getting recruited and tampered with, and they got offers. Okay, let's be honest. When a guy from Montana or Montana State enters the portal and you watch his Twitter page and he's got 11 offers in an hour, those schools did not just all call him in the last 60 minutes. They've been talking to him.
Oh, yeah.
But some guys jump in. At Montana State, we saw this. We saw some guys that jumped in because they'd clearly been in contact with other schools. Yep. And then I think you saw sort of a ripple effect, where a guy like Andrew Powell was like, well, dude, if this guy's going, let me jump. Let me see what I can get. And he ended up getting, okay, he's going to UNLV, so that's Mountain West. But I just wonder if it prevents that uncertainty, because you can say, hey, here's what I know I have at Montana State, or here's what I know what I have at Montana. It's not going to be this, what could I maybe get at Montana? I think you're just going to have way more structure of like, I know what the school is paying me. I'm not going to have to pray and hope that the collective comes up with the money for me. You kind of have just more stability that way. I just think it could keep a lot more guys home, specifically at the Montana schools.
I hear that, and I receive that, but you're still going to have this instance where, okay, this is what I'm getting at Montana State. UNLV's paying me double that.
No, right, totally.
You know?
For sure.
So it's like, I still feel like the FCS is going to end up being the little guy. And I don't know if this is where we were going to go, but I really agree with what Mickey Joseph said recently, talking about having buyouts. I think that is a phenomenal model.
No doubt.
To be able to add to college football. I mean, if you want my player, buy him out.
Right.
So you give us resources that we can put into another player.
Exactly, right? And I think that's a great thing. And I think the numbers would pencil out perfectly. Like if you have a guy that has been in your program for, say, 3 or 4 years, I think there should be a direct correlation for what the school that comes in and takes him has to pay. Let's say $50,000.
Yep.
Because then you can then go invest that in somebody else. Because that's where these FCS schools are going to continue to swim upstream, right? Like,
it's tough.
Montana State has done a good job of navigating. So is Montana, honestly. But like Montana State, they lose Sebastian Valdez. I mean, that guy's going to be a draft pick.
Yeah, Kenneth Iden.
You invested so much in this guy, and then he goes and transfers to Washington. Well, if you were getting a reciprocal, now you can just go and keep another guy home and or pour that resource into him. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out. Samuel Kim here on Nuanez Now. ESPN Radio, Colter Nuanez coming to you from the University of Montana press box. We are a little short of 2 hours away from the Grizz spring game, an annual occurrence. We're going to talk plenty of Grizz spring game here in the second hour. But I want to keep talking about the wide world of college sports at this exact moment. So Sac State, their president's been running his mouth like nobody's business. We talked about this twice this week already, and it still keeps getting juicier.
Yeah.
Dr. Luke Wood hosted a Reddit forum, basically, taking questions from people. And, I mean, I give this guy a ton of credit for being bold, bold, bold. I also think that, man, you better cash a check if your mouth's going to write that check, man. Like, you cannot run your mouth like this. But last night he basically said, we are competing at the JV level of Division I football. The rest of our sports at Sacramento State, they compete at the varsity level. We want to compete at the varsity level. Your thoughts on what he said last night on social media?
I mean, it's tough because I did see he posted another comment below, and he tried to, explain it. And my point is, I get what you're saying, but if you guys had been successful at the JV level, it'd be a different thing.
Totally.
But you guys haven't been super successful. The furthest you've been is the quarterfinals.
Totally.
So they've
won 2 playoff games.
2 playoff games.
Ever.
You're poo-pooing on the division.
It took them 30 years to win the Big Sky once.
What are we talking about? I mean, I don't know. It's just mind-boggling to me that somebody could say and be like that when you have been a mid-tier at best FCS program for the vast majority of your existence.
I think that the thing that they have the ground to stand on, though, is, first of all, I believe that Sac State is the rare FCS program in which I think you could actually accelerate your potential and become way, way better than what you have been since you moved D1 in 1993.
Yeah.
Because of where you're located. Because, like, right now, the best way I can put this in perspective is Sac State could win the FCS National Championship, and very few people in California, comparatively, are going to care.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing as it is in Montana and North Dakota and South Dakota and even probably Idaho and Washington. Yeah. It's not the same thing. I also think that Sam Herder made this point on the show on Wednesday, and I'll just repeat it. He said, hey, it is way more attainable, and the gap is way less far for Sac State to just be your everyday run-of-the-mill bowl team.
Yeah.
Like just getting to 7-5 or 7-6, getting to 8-4, that's attainable at Sac State for sure. In the FBS, playing as an independent, I don't know. But if you figured out a way to get into some kind of a league or something like that, Conference USA, the WAC, if the WAC brings football back, I don't know. But I just think that Sac State is never going to catch North Dakota State.
No.
Like, let's be honest. But look at what we're looking at right here. Sac State is never going to have this. They're never going to be like Montana either.
But here's my question. If they're a good FBS team, are people going to show up? I don't think so.
See, here's the thing. I think if you're a bad FBS team, the answer is no. I think if Sac State goes FBS, they will actually draw very, very well initially because there'll be a novelty to it.
Yeah.
And I also think that they would try to make a splash. Like, I bet you they'd sign a home and home with somebody, and they would get like a – I'm just throwing it out there, like a BYU. I don't think BYU would actually go to Sac State, but they could get like a Fresno State home and home, or a San Jose State home and home, and maybe even San Diego State. Like, tell them you'll play there 3 times if they play in Sac once.
Yeah.
I think those games would be well attended, if not selling out.
Yeah.
I just think that if you were bad for multiple years, once the novelty wears off, that's where I think you have uphill sledding. But on the other hand, what if you just got okay? Yeah. I mean, right now you've been following Sac State's recruiting.
They've been
lighting it up. I mean, they got a top 20 class in the country, not FCS class, a top 20 class, period.
They've been lighting it up.
So what if they're good right away?
I think they're going to be. I've said that this offseason.
And what if they moved up right now and they were good right away?
I don't know about that. I think they're good at the FCS level. I don't know about FBS ball.
So the thing that's intriguing to me from this perspective, because we could sit here and hammer on Sac and all the pros and cons on all this forever and ever, but the thing that's intriguing to me is if this gets approved and what it does to the Big Sky next year. Because Sac's going to be playing a Big Sky schedule, period, next year, even if they get approved to move up in 2026.
I think they beat up on the Big Sky in 2025.
And it doesn't matter, though, because that's where the caveat comes in. Because if this gets denied – look out, Big Sky, because Sac's going to have a roster that's loaded, and they're going to be competitive for sure. Yeah. If they're loaded and competitive and they beat a bunch of schools, but it's for no playoff eligibility, who cares, right? Yeah. Like we saw this with Missouri State last year. After they came to Missoula and got beat, they went on a nice little run.
Delaware as well.
It was for nothing because they were already transitioning to the FBS. So that's where it's like, what does it mean here, right? Yeah. Do the games between Montana and Sac, or Montana State and Sac, just become throwaway games this next year? It brings an interesting.
It's going to bring
eyes,
right? Just because all that's gone on this offseason, people are going to tune in regardless.
No doubt. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. We're going to talk plenty of details about this, but what are you most excited about to watch tonight in the Grizz spring game?
I'm just excited to see the whole team. You know, I haven't been able to make the spring practice this year, so I'm just excited to see what they look like. I'm excited to see, who they got on offense, who they got on defense. I'm excited to see if somebody stands out. Being a receiver, I'm probably most excited to see what the receiver position looks like, because I know that's where, they're losing a lot going into this next season. So I'm pretty excited to see the receiver position and see who's going to show up, who's going to make a play, who's going to make a name for themselves potentially today going into this year.
This is a loaded statement or a loaded question. Because the receivers for Montana have been the same for 3 years, basically. Yeah. It's been Keelan White, Junior Bergen, Aaron Fonts, and Sawyer Rockinelli. Yep. Ryan Simpson in there, too.
Yep.
Could they take a big jump forward at receiver this year?
They could.
It's loaded because those guys are all good. And I mean, 2 of those guys, Bergen and White, are great.
Yeah. I
also felt like they were both underutilized, especially Junior Bergen.
Oh, yeah.
I just wonder if – I don't know, man. I just wonder if you could have a chance to have addition by subtraction just by not having, like, these guys that are –
names.
I wonder, they're taking all the reps.
Yeah.
This way you might be able to have 6, 7, 8 guys play, and, like, whoever's got the hot hand or whoever's balling out, maybe – I don't know. I feel like there could be some – I think you're going to see different styles.
Yeah.
Right? Like Keldrick Bridges, he could be a different style than those guys have been, right? There's high returns on Brooks Davis. Everybody seems to think he's really good, too.
Yep.
I don't know. I think that's one of the most intriguing positions on the team, though, and also – obviously, who's throwing the ball.
I'll give you this, and this isn't to say anything bad about the receivers. I don't think they have a better season this year than the guys we saw last year and the year before, just because they're young.
Right.
And I know what it's like being a young receiver.
Totally.
I know how hard it is to kind of get the game underneath you and start to understand how things go. So I don't foresee them being amazing this year, but definitely going forward. I mean, we'll see. They can shock the nation.
Samuel Kim, you're getting to know him more as a sports analyst, the Skyline Sports guy, but he was all-conference receiver for the University of Montana, senior in 2021. Keelan White was on the Grizz Fan podcast the other day, and I thought his interview was very insightful. He talked a lot about game planning and how complex and broad the game planning is at Montana, and then how when you get into games so often you don't run a lot, if not most of the stuff you ran in practice.
Yeah.
I know it's a tough question because you only played for a couple football. I mean, you played for a high school team, you played for the Grizz, and you played one team in the USFL.
Yeah.
But is that common or uncommon? Because I think that sometimes I wonder if what they do is too complex for what they actually run.
I think in the pros it's less common. Like if you're running through that stuff,
you're running it.
You're running it.
And you're putting less stuff in the pros, actually,
yes.
Right? Ironically, right?
In college, I think a lot of times it comes down to, like, you may have seen a look one time on film. So you're going to put this play in order to counteract that look. Or, you're practicing this play all week, but you never get in the right situation because a lot of times the plays are situational. So you're looking for that 3rd and long. You're looking for that 3rd and 2. You're looking for that 3rd and 3. Sometimes you may not get the situation. And maybe that's just how we've experienced at Montana, so maybe I'm in it.
Right.
It does get like that sometimes in college. You practice all these plays, and a lot of times you might not run them. And sometimes it comes to a situation where what you're running is working.
For sure.
So... I mean, there's a bevy of reasons why it happens, but I would say definitely at the college level it happens more.
I just wonder, and this is not just criticism of the Grizz. I actually think this is a criticism of so many college football. I think this is a criticism of college football as a whole.
Yeah.
I think coaches make it way too complicated to make their jobs seem way more important.
Yeah.
Like, I think in college, especially at the FCS level, if you got a dude who's a better athlete than the guy guarding him, which if you were an elite receiver in the FCS, you are better than the guy guarding you. Like, that's just how it is. Because there's way more good offensive skill players than there is defensive skill players. No question.
It's harder to play defense.
And it's also just harder to get guys here. Like, if you're a long-armed, twitchy corner that can run, you're going Power 5. Like, there's just so many less of those guys that can run backwards. And so I just feel like the guy, you as a receiver, the guy you're going against, you have a mismatch against him 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered this about the Grizz, but also about so many of these college offenses. They're trying to scheme it instead of just saying,
Jimmy is better than Joe.
What did Eastern Washington do? Chisholm is better than this guy. Throw it to him. We have just all these different things, and you're scheming it up, whatever. When it's 3rd and 9, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I've wondered that with the Grizz for the last couple of years because, to me, like, Bobby Houck is he jams on it over and over and over again. We got to be good on 1st down. We got to be good on 2nd down. If we're not good on 2nd down and 1st down, we're never going to be good on 3rd down. Well, why not? Like when it's 3rd and 8, why can't you just line Bergen up in the slot and just run him on a slant route and just throw him the ball?
I will say that mindset works, and I see it in NDSU's ball. I see it in Montana State.
Okay, so there's the thing. Who's won all the national championships the last 15 years?
NDSU.
And South Dakota State. And who's been in the national championship multiple times the last couple of years? Montana State. Who has the least complex offenses in the country? Those 3 teams, man, they're not scheming up anything. They're just getting the ball to the playmakers.
Yeah.
Like, what's Montana State do? They get the ball to the dudes that need the ball in space. That's it.
But also, what do all those teams do well also?
Run the ball. Run the ball and dominate on the offensive line.
And that's what I was getting at, is they do stay ahead in the chains.
Sure.
Because they can run the ball.
Totally.
So that 2nd and 5 turns into a 3rd and 1.
Yeah.
And then you're running it again on 3rd down.
Totally.
So I think it's a part of the offense. It comes, they have a very simple offense to understand, but also, they can run the ball. They do prioritize the trenches, and they can get ahead in the chains. So
I just think there's such this irony of the fact that the Grizz love to pound the rock. They do keep it simple in the run game, but then a lot of the stuff in the pass game is so super complex that they haven't had a guy that they can dedicate to be a 3 or 4 year starter at quarterback to master it.
They need that.
There's just a missing link there, right? Yep. It seems like you should either keep it simple with the young guy that you're trying to groom, like Kaylee Ayat, who seems to be like of that makeup, or if it's going to be all, I don't know. I just feel like isolate playmakers if you're going to, if you just need to put yourself in advantageous situations.
I remember Coach Rosie, who's at Cal Poly now, came up to me like 2018, 2019. He was talking about where his head is when he's drawing up plays. He's like, or actually it was after our practice because we might have had a bad day of practice or something like that. And he comes up to us. He's like, you guys want to know what I'm thinking about when I'm drawing up my game plan? I'm not thinking about plays. I'm thinking about players.
Right.
And what he was trying to say is like when I need a play to be made, I'm thinking about what player on that field is going to make that play.
Absolutely.
Not what play in this play sheet is going to get somebody, So I think that's how you have to be. And I think that's how it is in the professionals.
No question.
Where are my playmakers at? I mean, what play gets them the ball?
That explains the evolution of the modern tight end position.
Yep.
Like, why do these guys like Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews get 80 and 90 catches a year now? Because that's what it is. On 3rd and 8, you say, okay, we're mismatching.
Yep.
Get this guy in the slot, get him on the best mismatch in the entire game, and boom. Option route right to the middle of the field, hit it, first down.
Yep.
It just, I mean, sometimes I just think that it's made a lot more complicated than it actually needs to be. Nuanez Now,
Sometimes it is.
ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. Speaking of that, we will have a little bit of NFL talk for you on the other side, live from the press box on the University of Montana campus, Washington Grizzlies Stadium, about an hour and a half away from the Grizz spring game. Talk NFL quarterbacks on the other side. Don't change that dial. Keep it right here. It's ESPN Radio.
For 20 years, there's been a sound that's helped define Missoula. A sound as unique as the people who call this place home. The Trail 103.3. We're grateful. We're honored. We remain true to the community and true to the music. Tune in for the celebration. Tune in for the party. Tune in for the next 20 years. We can hardly wait.
I can't wait.
The Trail 103.3.
Hardly wait.
In the Treasure State, University of Montana football is a way of life. Lithia Ford has long been a proud sponsor of Grizz football, and Lithia Ford of Missoula is thrilled to have several of the best Montana football seniors driving the best trucks in Montana. Aspen Sound is the premier car audio and accessory shop in Montana. Aspen Sound makes sure the boys are riding in style with tinted windows and state-of-the-art stereo systems. There's always a party in Montana. Whether you're going to a concert, a wedding, or a football game, the Montana Party Bus will get you there. Skyline Sports and ESPN MT cover the big sky with more depth than anyone. Check out SkylineSportsMT.com and tune in to Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula every day. My Montana Roots and Wear Your Roots clothing is your go-to spot for the most unique and comfortable lifestyle clothing you'll find anywhere. And get your custom t-shirts to support your favorite player. From 5 local businesses who love Montana, best of luck to the Grizz as they pursue another Big Sky Conference championship.
Attention, your locally owned and nationally known mattress firm thanks the Missoula community for 10 years of amazing support and growth. There's a huge remodel sale blowout before the doors close for their 2-week remodel. All inventory must go. Mattresses, adjustable bases, accessories, all drastically marked down to clear the showroom. Save it to 60% off on top name brands. If you've been waiting for that amazing deal, now is the time. Mattress Firm's remodel sale only April 1st through the 15th.
Mattress Firm, where it's easy to get a great night's sleep.
Elevated tax.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Montana football's spring camp wraps up with the annual Grizz spring game this evening. Hello, I'm Al. Kickoff for the showcase is set for 6 p.m. at Washington Grizzly Stadium, and the scrimmage is likely to run for around 80 to 90 plays. Most of the intrigue around this year's spring game is focused on the large class of transfers that the Grizzlies imported this offseason. That includes former USC quarterback Jake Jensen, who will lead the Maroon team on Friday alongside returning stalwarts like All-American running back Eli Gilman, offensive lineman Dylan Botner, and safety TJ Roush. Redshirt sophomore quarterback Kali'i Ayat will start for the Silver team after throwing for over 1,100 yards and accounting for 14 total touchdowns in part-time duty a year ago. Transfers to watch on offense include former Arizona State wide receiver Corbin Hendricks, former Eastern Washington all-purpose star Michael Wortham, and 2 new tight ends, Titus Rohrer from Tennessee and Josh Gale from UC Davis. On defense, the new names to watch include Hunter Peck, a pass rusher who was the Frontier Conference Defensive Player of the Year last fall at Carroll, as well as former Utah State defensive tackle Braden Bailey, former Eastern Illinois linebacker Elijah Tolbert, and former BYU safety Micah Harper. For a comprehensive preview of this year's Grizz spring game, tune in to Nuanez Now at 4 p.m. on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
This is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
You know what? I bet you got it twisted. You don't know who to trust. So many player hating, trying to sound like us. Say they ready for the funk, but I don't think they know it. Straight to the depths of hell is where them cowards going. Well, all you still down. Holler when you see me.
Welcome back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. Also coming to you live on YouTube, as well as Facebook Live, Twitch, all that sort of stuff. Appreciate you for tuning in. Hope you have a great Friday. Since this is a Friday, that means it's a Florence Coffee Company Friday. I already had my Florence coffee for the day, but the weather is warming up. I like the Lotuses on the hot days, but I also got a little triple shot Americano for my wife this morning. We went through the Floco drive-thru. No matter where you're at in Western Montana, there's a Florence Coffee Company near you. Appreciate Floco for their continued support of us here at Nuanez Now. Various members of the UM Athletic Department coming over and saying hello here in the visiting radio booth. Just heard from Nick Hallisey, who is the head of marketing here at UM. And just a reminder, Grizz softball, it's funny because their season goes like that because half of it is away. They don't even play a home game for like the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season. And then when they get into conference play, it's like only a couple weekends of home games. But they do have their last home weekend coming up in a couple weeks. That's April 25th and 26th. So one last chance to see the Grizz softball team during the regular season if you are so inclined. We'll remind you next week and the week after as well. But Grizz softball under a first-year head coach in Steph Ewing, and they've certainly made strides from where they were the last couple years. So a program that has been improving, no doubt. All right, let's talk some NFL because it's that time of year. The NFL draft is coming up. So first of all, before we get into some of this quarterback stuff, do you think that anybody in the Big Sky Conference played their way into being drafted in the NFL, given their pro days or their combines these last couple of weeks?
I think Marcus Weir did.
I think he did too. I think Jackson Slater at Sac State
Jackson Slater
the other
for sure.
Because he was at the combine, and you know, if you're at the combine and you show out at the combine, you're almost certain to get drafted, and then he did.
I think there's a chance that Mr. Malott could, just based on his numbers. And when you look at the Julian Edelman, I know it's like, you know, he was a fan of Julian Edelman growing up, but it truly is. His situation is a true example of what could happen for Tommy. I don't know. We'll have to see. You know, it's tough. It's tough for Tommy because obviously he's athletic and, you know, he has all the metrics.
Right.
It's like he's never done it at the receiver position, but neither had Julian Edelman. So
that's why if Bill Belichick was the head coach of the Patriots and the year was like 2008, I think that the Patriots would take a flyer on Tommy Malott because he's like right in their wheelhouse in terms of not only diverse athleticism but also like character. You know, I mean, Belichick loves smart guys, hard workers. You know, what'd you get on your ACT, stuff like that. You know, I just think that would carry well. This day and age, though, I think no. I think that you. It's too big of a risk.
It's a risk.
Because he's not getting drafted as a quarterback.
Yeah.
No one's going to take a draft pick on a guy who's never played. I mean, he's played receiver in a game when he was a freshman in college like 3 times.
He's getting jet sweeps and stuff.
That's it, though, right?
Yeah.
So, but I do think his phone's going to blow up the moment that the draft ends.
He'll probably get a decent undrafted free agent guarantee.
I think Weir, though, is going to be probably right there, like 4th, 5th round for sure. For the Grizz, I think Junior Bergen's in a similar situation as Tommy Malott.
Yeah.
I thought watching him return punts out here was sort of the game changer for him on his pro day. I think his pro day, I don't think he did anything to hurt or help himself. I think it was just standard. I think he
just check a box.
Check a box. Like I think his bench was better than people thought, but I think everything else was exactly where you thought. 40 maybe a snap of a finger slower than you thought, but like
that's what it is with the 40.
No, that's what it is for real though. And like he didn't kill himself. 4 or 5. You know, it depends on whose stopwatch you read. I had him at 4.48.
Yeah.
But seriously, it is that fast. So, but I think that the scouts were sort of okay during the indoor workouts. But then when he came out here, then after they saw him return punts and stuff, everybody's going up to him, shaking his hand. So and so.
That's so crazy to me because it's like you've seen him do that on film.
You've seen him too, but you got to see him in person too.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when scouts watch film, I think there's scouts that know the FCS and they know the caliber of the talent in the FCS. I think there's others that are like, well, he's just playing against a bunch of nobodies.
That's most of them.
Right, exactly. And so then you're like, well, I got to see him doing it with my own 2 eyes.
But he's doing it against nobody.
No, that's right. Here's my thing. I think Junior Bergen's biggest challenge is, can he make a team as a wide receiver? Because I think it's going to be really hard for a team to keep an undrafted free agent rookie to just return punts. That's where Rashid Shaheed turn the corner, right?
Unless he completely balls out in preseason.
Right, totally.
That's a different discussion.
No, for sure, but like Shaheed made enough progress as a receiver, former Weber State All-American, for somebody to be like, okay, you can be our 6th receiver, but also our kick returner.
Yeah.
I think that's what Junior Bergen needs to do.
And now Rashid Shaheed's like number 2.
I mean, he's one of the most explosive big play guys in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
If he can stay healthy, that is.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Ware's probably going to be somewhere in that 5th to 6th round. I think Slater, same thing, 5th to 6th round.
Wow.
I don't think anybody else. I do think, though, there's more guys that are NFL caliber, and I think that there's several reasons for that. I think a lot of guys lost opportunities in the 2019 to 2021 range because of the COVID.
Yep.
You know, I thought there was a couple guys at Montana State and Montana, I thought, in 2019 that should have got shots that just got nothing.
Yeah.
Because, the pro day was supposed to be the next spring, and, they just didn't have a pro day. So they just literally got nothing.
Yeah.
That was unfortunate. And there was even some carryover into, your group, too, 2021.
Yeah, we had the biggest draft class.
Totally.
To date, I'm pretty sure.
Out of the Big Sky Conference, yeah. Because I think the extra year off benefited some of you guys, having that 2020 year to get 1 year better.
Yeah.
But there was also lull from the guys that had come in during that time. They were young guys then. Now I think we've sort of crossed that bridge too. And I think the talent this last year in the Big Sky was better than it had been the last couple of years. Last year, only 3 guys from the Big Sky even got roster calls. There's going to be way more than that this year. Because I think Lyon Larison from UC Davis gets a call.
Oh, yeah.
I think Elijah Ponder from Cal Poly gets a call.
Yep.
After Chisholm from Eastern Washington gets a call. I think that, obviously Keelan White and Hayden Harris are getting CFL calls, no question. But
I've been seeing rumors Keelan White maybe go first.
number 1 overall in the CFL draft.
And that's where Dave is picking, correct?
That's right.
Calgary?
Yep, that's right. So,
wow.
There's a fit there for sure, and that'll be interesting. I don't know. I think White might actually get a minicamp invite, though.
I think so, too. His hands are so sticky.
His hands are so
sticky. He barely had any drops throughout his career.
He ran 4.6 flat, which is not crazy burning, but I think that's faster than people actually thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
And his agility stuff was right. He was right on par with Malott and Bergen. So.
Oh, yeah. His change of direction is his best facet of his route.
Totally. So we'll see. We'll see where these guys pan out. All right. A little buy-sell for you. There's been a lot of movement in the free agency world of the NFL in terms of quarterbacks. Nobody big time, just a bunch of guys that are sort of right there in the middle.
Of the pack. Yep.
And the middle is such a weird place to be in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think,
you're going to get a lot of money.
You're going to get a lot of money. You're a Cowboys guy. You've been stuck with the middle for years.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott. He's better than a lot of the guys that you could have, but he's not even close to as good as the guys that can lead you all the way.
Yeah.
And I think if you're not in that top 8, if you're not in that Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow type of range, then everybody's the same. I would actually rather have the bottom third type of guy because you could build so much more around him. You smoke 30. The Vikings had this problem forever because Kirk Cousins was the 14th or 15th best quarterback in the NFL, but he's making $37 million a year.
He's got a good agent.
He's got great. This guy is about to make more money than almost everybody ever, man.
Oh, man.
For being just right in the dead set middle. Dak Prescott, too, man. He's the first $50 million a year player in
60.
the NFL. 60.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy, man.
It's ridiculous.
But there has been some movement, certainly, that, I don't know, could be impactful, maybe not. So we'll start with Seattle Seahawks because I know that there's a lot of Seahawks fans listening. You buying or selling the Seahawks acquisition of Sam Darnold this offseason?
I like it. Man, it's so tough because up till week 12 or 13 in the NFL season, almost any team in the league outside of the top teams with quarterbacks would have taken Sam Darnold.
That's an interesting point.
He finished the season so bad.
So bad, man. He literally took $25 million and lit it on fire in front of everybody between the last game of the regular season and the playoffs.
It's crazy because you ask somebody week 12, it's oh, yeah, I'd love to have Sam Darnold. I'd love that. So many fans would want him. And now you're looking at it, it's this guy, I don't know. So I honestly like it for the Seahawks. I think they're a younger team. I don't think they have too many vets on that team, so I think he kind of fits in with that nucleus. Even though he's not young guy, he's still younger. I don't know. I'm a guy who always is willing to give somebody a second chance.
Totally.
So, and I think he's on his third or fourth chance. But I think, he can do some things in Seattle.
Well, it's crazy how talented he was at such a young age because he's going into his 9th season in the NFL. He's only 28 years old.
What did he get in the league in 19, 20?
Yeah, 20 years old. He was right. He had just turned 20 when he got drafted. So he's certainly turned a corner. But I also wonder, like, how much was the production last year a product of having the best offensive head coach in the NFL, and Kevin O'Connell, and, I mean, who's got better skill players than the Vikings? When you're throwing to
Hawkinson, Jefferson, Addison.
I mean,
they had
Aaron Jones, sweet running back. Like, that's one of the 5 best offensive skill sets in the NFL, if not the top, right?
And that's the question. Is he going to be able to do it with lesser talent at Seattle?
No doubt. Seattle is also, I mean, there's a story there because there's an overhaul going on. Mike McDonald is certainly trying to distance himself from the Pete Carroll era.
Yep.
I mean, there's all the stories from last offseason when he first got that job that they took down all the historical stuff, like for the Legion of Boom and all the Russell Wilson and the homage to the Super Bowl team.
Can't do that.
Man, I think I see it both sides. I agree with you. You have to have reverence for history. But I also think if you're the guy that's taken over for this guy, like, you can bring that stuff back later on. You got to cut the ties from Pete Carroll right now.
Yeah, but, like, that's like somebody coming in and taking down Dave's jersey.
No, that's true.
We're going to unretire Dave's jersey because that was a different era. Like, he would be run out of town immediately.
No, that's true.
You can't do that.
It's true.
They won a Super Bowl.
Right. in a franchise that had an impossible time being competitive until Pete Carroll got there. So one of the reasons that Seattle had an opening is because Geno Smith went to Vegas. So I went to the Chargers-Raiders game, the last game of the year last regular season game in Vegas. That's the worst quarterback play I've ever seen live.
Chargers-Raiders, who they have?
Aiden O'Connell. I mean, it was striking to watch Justin Herbert, who's a top 10 guy, and this guy. Like, it was so not the same thing that you were watching. So it's an upgrade for Vegas. I just don't know how much it moves the needle. I think the Vegas is stuck for a lot of reasons.
I like Geno.
Geno's pretty good.
Geno's the same with what you were saying. He's like a middle-of-the-pack guy. Yeah. It's like he's always going to be top 10 in passing yards, touchdowns, but he's never going to get you over that hump. And that's what the winning teams need. So, I mean, it's the Raiders, though. So, I mean, that says enough.
Exactly. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app, as well as the ESPN Missoula YouTube channel and our ESPN MT Facebook page. Aaron Rodgers isn't anywhere yet.
Man.
If you were a team that needed a quarterback, would you take a risk? Like Pittsburgh doesn't have a quarterback right now. Would you take a risk if you were Pittsburgh?
I'm probably on the short end of this, but I wouldn't. I mean, I'm tired of the theatrics, man. Like, he's talking about potentially taking a year off, or I saw something about him maybe potentially taking a year off. Like, I don't know what's going on, and I'm just tired of it. Like, just pick a team, get in, like, because right now this is good time. OTAs are about to start.
Yeah.
Minicamp's going to start.
Yep.
Like, all these off-season training time where you need to be building a relationship with your receivers. Like, this is the time that's done. And he's not doing that because he's taking his time. I mean, I wouldn't want him on my team if I was a coach, but obviously I'm not a coach. So, I mean, what do you think?
Well, see, here's the thing. I want him in Minnesota.
Who do you guys got right now? Oh, JJ?
JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if McCarthy's ready yet. A-Rod is not going to be the mentor that people hope and wish he would be.
No.
But I think for a year in that offense with those skill guys, he can still light it up.
Yeah.
He's better than Sam Darnold. I mean, I like to believe that you're right. I don't know. It's a question mark.
Do we know that?
Because of the injuries and because of the age, for sure. But
can we definitively say that right now?
Yeah, and one as somebody, I can't remember who, but somebody was pushing back to me the other day. They were saying, is that what gets you over the top as Minnesota and wins you a Super Bowl?
No.
The answer is no.
No.
All it does is maintain, which is basically 12 to 13 wins has been the norm the last 3 years for the Vikings, and then nothing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, and is he going to get you over the top in the playoffs? I don't really know. I don't think so.
I mean, but as we've seen, I don't think anybody will call Jalen Hurts a gunslinger.
Sure.
Or, I mean, he just had you have to have the whole package.
No question. Jalen Hurts, though, is leading the workouts. He's leading the team. He's not skipping OTAs.
He's a leader.
He's getting everybody together.
Yep.
You're rallying for him.
Yep.
A-Rod, he has been prone to actually rally teams until all of a sudden he doesn't, and then he just throws everybody under the bus, and it becomes the A-Rod show, and he roasts you into oblivion. So, I don't know. It's going to be fun, though. I wish there was more high-profile quarterback carousel going on instead of just a bunch of average middle-of-the-road guys moving around to a bunch of average middle-of-the-road teams. I don't really know who moves the needle the most there. I do think if A-Rod ended up in Pittsburgh, it could be entertaining theater. Because I think he could elevate them a little bit if he was good, and I think he could completely tank them if he was bad.
Yeah. You think he could give Tomlin his first what is it, 9 wins? He's had 9 wins or 10 wins, or he's never had a losing season.
Never had a losing season.
You think he would give Tomlin his first losing season?
Well, see, there's a bunch of Steelers fans out there that are probably yelling because it's so funny that Mike Tomlin's fallen out of favor, but he certainly has. And
yeah, for sure.
Maybe people are saying, bring him in so they can tank so they can finally get rid of Tomlin. Everybody, I heard this from a fan the other day, a listener of the show. They said, we think about Mike Tomlin the way you used to think about Kirk Cousins. If you have them, you're stuck. Tomlin's just going to get you to the playoffs, but never anything better.
You know what's so funny about that, though? It's so hard to win in the NFL. It's so hard to win football games.
No doubt.
What is the other side of not having Mike Tomlin?
Well, that's the thing, though. In the NFL, it's better to be bad than it is to be okay. Because you can plan your future.
Yeah. You're always in the middle of the draft.
Because you're never going to get over the top until you draft Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Because you're not just going to go sign Josh Allen. You got to draft him.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to be able to draft him is if you're bad.
Yeah.
That's what the Vikings have been for my whole life, because they've never been able to draft a good quarterback because they're always picking in the 15 to 25 spot. If they were just bad and they got the 7th overall pick or the 2nd overall pick, then you can turn it around. You could actually turn your franchise.
That's how you guys got J.J. McCarthy.
I mean, for sure. I mean, getting him 10, but he's got to pan out to be something. We'll see. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Take a break, come back, talk a little high school hoops. The Montana Elite Invitational rosters are out. Take a look at the boys and girls rosters leading up to that event in late May. Samuel Kim, Colter Nuanez, live from the University of Montana press box here at Washington Grizzly Stadium. Grizz spring game about an hour and 15 minutes away. More on Nuanez Now right after this. Don't change that dial. Keep it right here. It's ESPN.
State University of Montana football is a way of life. Lithia Ford has long been a proud sponsor of Grizz football, and Lithia Ford of Missoula is thrilled to have several of the best Montana football seniors driving the best trucks in Montana. Aspen Sound is the premier car audio and accessory shop in Montana. Aspen Sound makes sure the boys are riding in style with tinted windows and state-of-the-art stereo systems. There's always a party in Montana. Whether you're going to a concert, a wedding, or a football game, the Montana Party Bus will get you there. Skyline Sports and ESPN MT cover the big sky with more depth than anyone. Check out SkylineSportsMT.com and tune in to Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula every day. My Montana Roots and Wear Your Roots clothing is your go-to spot for the most unique and comfortable lifestyle clothing you'll find anywhere. And get your custom t-shirts to support your favorite player. From 5 local businesses who love Montana, best of luck to the Grizz as they pursue another Big Sky Conference championship.
What are you drinking?
I think I'll have a 56.
56 Counties American Light Lager, a beer for Montanans and friends of Montanans.
Access to Montana's great backyard is the best part of being a Grizzly. At the University of Montana, our classrooms are the mountain peaks, river valleys, and never-ending plains of the Big Sky Country. We provide students with the hands-on training to protect and enjoy hunting, conservation, and stewardship. UM launches the careers of outdoor leaders so that they can protect our traditions and ensure they are passed down for future generations. Because what's made in Montana is remaking the world.
What is a jewelry design center?
JDC is a family-owned business with deep roots in Montana. Why Montana? Because this community made us family, made us artisans, made us believe in love, made us hometown heroes. Because this community made us shine. Why Montana? Because Montana is home.
At the Stone of Accord, our liquor store has an extensive selection of Irish whiskeys, wine, and local spirits. We also have exciting events daily, and our complimentary beverages are always served with a smile. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair, restaurant, liquor store, and casino. Bring the whole family to the Stone of Accord for a wonderful brunch. From traditional comfort food to eclectic specials, there's something for everyone to enjoy. And it wouldn't be a proper Missoula brunch without an Irish coffee and a mimosa. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair, restaurant, liquor store, and casino.
Is now on ESPN Radio.
I came, I saw, I praise the Lord and break the law. I take what's mine and take some more. It rains, it pours, it rains, it pours. Yeah.
What's up? Welcome back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. Colter Nuanez, Samuel Kim, coming to you live from Washington Grizzly Stadium. A little bit more than an hour away from the Grizz spring game. Plenty of in-depth discussion, including the 5 biggest question marks of the offseason for the Grizz, plus some of the position groups we'll be watching coming up in hour number 2. But quickly, let's do a prep extra here to wind down hour number 1. Prep Extra, probably presented by Farmers State Bank. Farmers State Bank, enriching the lives of Montanans since 1907. The Montana Elite Invitational is an awesome event coordinated by former NBA star Josh Hustis. He's a Great Falls, Montana native who then went on to play in the NBA. His first-round draft pick by the Oklahoma City Thunder. He now resides in Bozeman. The MEI this year, though, is being played in Butte. I'm on the selection committee, so we help select 28 of the best boys and 28 of the best girls in the state of Montana in high school basketball. And then it's a 4-team per boys and girls, so 8 total teams, 7 on each team, showcase where everybody plays each other. And college programs from all over the state and all over the region come and scout this thing. So it's a great way to sort of see players against peer college talent, right? Yeah, I mean, that's always the biggest knock on these, especially small school kids. Okay, they're scoring 25 points a game. Who they scored it against, right? So this gets the best kids.
Best on best.
Best on best. So here's the roster real quick. I mean, I know it's a little bit tedious to go through 28 and 28, but we'll just go through these real quick just to give these young people some love. And Josh Eustace will join us next week on the show to break down these rosters and break down the event in general. Chase Badbear, Billings Senior. He's the younger brother of Cole Badbear. He's certainly one of the top seniors to be in the state of Montana. Cannon Magnus, he's an electric scorer from down in Hamilton. Toby Stewart, was really impressed with him when I saw him in Missoula at the Class B state tournament. He's from Lodge Grass, will be a senior next year. J-Mo Kendrick is a young man that's going to have a lot on his shoulders next year for Loyola. The Rams graduate 7 of their top 8. He's the only one that doesn't graduate from the 3-time defending Class B state champs, but he should probably put up some pretty elevated numbers. Kamani Frazier from Lame Deer is a young man I love. I mean, I know this kid's not D1 yet, but he's got such unbelievable length and athleticism. I would give this kid a look all day long, so hopefully this opportunity can help elevate him. He's like 6'6". He runs the floor really well. He's got really long arms. He had a couple freakish highlights this year, so hopefully this gets him some love. Jace Bance of Lewistown. Zakiah Collison Blake of Lockwood. Lockwood has several guys on here, which is a testament to them. They've certainly emerged. They got their first state trophy this year. They're relatively new high school right outside of Billings.
2022?
That's right. J.J. Benz of Lodge Grass, Ethan Rivas of Glendive, Austin Savick of Big Fork, Lincoln Rogers of Sentinel, who's one of the best players here in the Garden City. He's a really fun player to watch. I think he's a D1 type of athlete, too. He's 6'7". He can play the point. He can handle the ball, so I think he's got great potential. Colby Finley of Ronan, Ben Cunningham, who's one of the best 2027 prospects in this field of Great Falls CMR, Cash Rice from Billings West, Ryland St. John of Chester, Duran Lear of Fairfield, Hank Smith of Frenchtown, DeAndre Ellis of East Helena, Zayden Calder of Wolf Point, Johns Lee Pierre of Leicester Christian, Cade Humia of Glasgow, Dawson Hammond of Malta, Kobe Blake of Lockwood, Zane Gilhouse from Hellgate, Joshua Sutton from Butte Central, Bram Hadron of Scobie, Josh Carney of Scobie. Rare that you get 2 Class C guys on the same team, but Scobie ran the table. I actually felt bad for Scobie because they went undefeated this year, and then they had to play another undefeated in the semifinals of the state tournament. Wow. So that one of the two had to lose.
There's 82 kids in Scobie High School.
Right? I mean, it's pretty cool if there's 2 of them that are this good at basketball. And then Landon LeVang, who's one of the best freshmen of the state from Helena Capital. If you're sitting there asking, well, what about Hudson Ledke? He's one of the best players in the state of Montana out of Butte High School. We nominated him. He has a prior commitment that weekend, so he was unable to participate. On the girls' side, it's a who's who. I mean, my goodness, how many great girls basketball players are there in the state of Montana right now. Mason Quinn from Frenchtown, who's getting recruited hard by both Montana and Montana State. Brooklyn Pierce of Billings West, who I think is D1 in both basketball and volleyball. She's a great 2-sport athlete. Briola Becker of Denton, Geyser, Stanford, Geraldine, one of the great small school co-ops at the Class C level. Avery O'Connor and Madison O'Connor, the O'Connor sisters of Baker. They're certainly going to be back with a vengeance next basketball season because they were the defending champs this year. They lost the Huntley Project, but they get a chance to run it back. Huntley Project Graduates Paige Loafing. She's headed to Gonzaga, so Baker should be the big-time favorites in Class B. Thanks so much to the O'Connor sisters. Billings Central had a couple young ladies on this squad. Once again, they've had a stacked roster the last couple of years. Annika Sturgar and Cameron Ranker of Central land on this roster. Lauren Lieberg, who's one of the top freshmen in the state of Montana from Helena High, is on this roster as well. Amaya Jarvis from Havre. Neva Jacobson from Malta, so a couple Highline girls there. Ava Overgaard's one of the best seniors to be in AA from Bozeman Gallatin. Avery DeCoy, we talked about this the other day. Avery DeCoy got offered by Montana. Well, she's officially committed to Montana. She's a Missoula Big Sky girl. Her dad, Dave DeCoy, was a great safety for the Grizz.
There should be 2 Big Sky girls on here, right?
Hey, Cadence Couture headed to Montana State. So, no seniors in this thing.
Okay.
Cadence was in this the last couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah. But DeCoy's certainly been one of the best players in Missoula the last couple of years. The best player in Missoula the last couple of years has been Cadence Couture, and she's taken her talents to Montana State. Jada Davis, who's a senior to be at Bozeman Gallatin. Maisie Hagum-Prinky of Billings West. Caden Graham, who was one of the best sophomores in the state this year from Butte, Montana. Maggie Ike of Millstone, who had Millstone undefeated all the way until the state tournament this last year. Peyton Gunlock, who's the younger of the 2 Gunlock sisters. The older one's going to BYU, but the younger one's certainly, I think, Division I caliber as well. Laney Ketchum of Big Timber. Ellie Reed of Missoula Hellgate. Michaela Coleman of Bozeman Gallatin. Bailey McCauley of Sega Whitewater Hinsdale. Ryan Eveland of Jefferson County High School in Boulder. Bryn Camerzell of Chester Joplin Inverness. I think she's from Chester. Kiki Lone Bear of Billings Skyview. Marissa Snyder of Ennis. Reese Anderson of Billings West, and Cora Matt of Mission High School up in St. Ignatius. So there's your Montana Elite Invitational rosters. That's coming up late May, Memorial Day weekend, so we'll have Josh Eustace on to talk more in depth about that event. Nuanez Now, Samuel Kim, Colter Nuanez coming to you from Washington Grizzly Stadium. More in depth on the Grizz. We'll give you the 5 biggest storylines of this offseason for Montana, plus we'll go into some of the position groups. I got my eye on the defensive line, the linebackers, and the safeties. So basically the defense tonight. We'll talk about that leading into the Grizz spring game. Don't change that dial. Keep it right here. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
So will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you'd do it all over again. Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.
When you buy tires at Les Schwab, you're getting more than just tires. You're getting America's best tire warranty, 60-day satisfaction guarantee, no hassle road hazard protection, and free maintenance for the life of your tires. So if something happens to your tire on the road, we'll fix it, or we'll replace it, no questions asked. Other places make you pay extra for that kind of protection, but at Les Schwab, it's included with every set of tires, because more warranty means less worry, and nobody stands by their tires like Les Schwab. Get more from Les.
Every Wednesday, presented by the Despo.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Montana football's spring camp wraps up with the annual Grizz Spring Game this evening. Hello, I'm Andrew Houghton. Kickoff for the annual showcase is set for 6 p.m. at Washington Grizzly Stadium, and the scrimmage is likely to run for around 80 to 90 plays. Most of the intrigue around this year's spring game is focused on the large class of transfers that the Grizzlies imported this offseason. That includes former USC quarterback Jake Jensen, who will lead the Maroon team on Friday alongside returning stalwarts like All-American running back Eli Gilman, offensive lineman Dylan Botner, and safety TJ Roush. Redshirt sophomore quarterback Kali'i Ayat will start for the Silver team after throwing for over 1,100 yards and accounting for 14 total touchdowns in part-time duty a year ago. Transfers to watch on offense include former Arizona State wide receiver Corbin Hendricks, former Eastern Washington all-purpose star Michael Wortham, and 2 new tight ends, Titus Rohrer from Tennessee and Josh Gale from UC Davis. On defense, the new names to watch include Hunter Peck, a pass rusher who was the Frontier Conference Defensive Player of the Year last fall at Carroll, as well as former Utah State defensive tackle Braden Bailey, former Eastern Illinois linebacker Elijah Tolbert, and former BYU safety Micah Harper. For a comprehensive preview of this year's Grizz Spring Game, tune in to Nuanez Now at 4 p.m. on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
It's Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
What's that on that beat? Second bad, but somebody gotta do it. Got my foot up on the gas, but somebody gotta do it. Turn this TV off, turn this TV off. Turn this TV off, turn this TV off. Turn this TV off, turn this TV off. Turn this TV off, turn this TV off.
We're back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Appreciate you for hanging with us here on this Friday. Colter Nuanez with Samuel Kim coming to you live from Washington Grizzly Stadium on the University of Montana campus. We are up in the visitors' press box. Grizz Spring Game, a little more than an hour away. The 60-minute clock has not started ticking quite yet. We have a couple people down on the field getting warmed up. Of course, being the Grizz fans that they are, there's already like 50 or 60 people here in the stands, making sure they got their seats. It's beautiful weather here in Western Montana, so I don't blame them for wanting to soak up some sun. If you missed anything in the first hour of the show, you can find it on the Nuanez Now podcast, probably presented by the M Store, where they're all Grizz all the time. The Montana State Bookstore, your best place for blue and gold on game day or any other day, and Elevated Tax, elevating you and your business with a modern professional touch. You want to save money on your taxes next year, visit elevatedtax.com. The Grizz lose a ton from last year's team that finished at 9-5 and lost in the second round of the FCS playoffs. Brandon Casey, a 40-plus game starter at right tackle. Cade Klimzak, who was the starter most of the season at center. Journey Grimsrud, who was a 2.5-year starter at right guard. The receivers, who Sammy and I talked about in the first hour, Junior Bergen, Aaron Fonts, Keelan White, Sawyer Roccanelli, and Ryan Simpson. Basically all of the receivers that played in games last year are graduating. Grizz also were expected to lose Cole Grossman, that is officially done, Eric Barker, who graduated, and Evan Schaefer. But Evan Schaefer decided he's running it back this year. So that's a spot maybe where you get a little bit of experience. He's certainly a great inline blocking type of tight end. Sure. Nick Osmo at running back, Logan Fife at quarterback, Hayden Harris, Pat Hayden, Anders Lehrman, and Hank Noose along the defensive line. Riley Wilson, Ryan Tyrrell, and Vi Cajo at linebacker. Jackson Lee, Rydermeyer, Jace Kluswich, Tyson Rostad, all at safety, and Ronald Jackson, who transferred, and Trevin Gradney at corner.
Did you see Ronald Jackson jump back in the portal?
I did. He was transferred to Old Dominion, didn't last after spring ball, and now he's back in the portal. So
that's how it goes these days.
5 big questions for this offseason. Number 1, out of all those starters that Montana loses from last year, who is the toughest to replace?
I'm going to say linemen because I know how hard playing offense is. And I don't know. Those are 3 starters. Journey, 2-year starter. Brandon Casey, 3-year starter. it's tough losing linemen, and it's tough to play offensive line well. So I foresee the offensive line being the toughest to replace.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that I think Hayden Harris and Riley Wilson on the edge are pretty tough to replace as well.
Yep.
Other than that, though, I think that this is no shots against the guys from last year, but I think that you just need to be better at corner and safety than Montana was last year.
Yeah.
So, I just think that, losing those guys, you lose the familiarity and, the trust.
Yeah.
But I just think you got to have better talent there.
Yeah.
If you get to where you want to go.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be able to play man coverage. You got to be able to play it well.
Especially in this defense, too.
Oh, yeah.
For the Grizz.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of, I think the offensive line remains to be one of the biggest question marks for this entire program, and it continues to be sort of baffling to me because the Grizz are better on the offensive line than when Bobby Hauck took over.
Yeah, 100%.
They're still nowhere close to as good as where they need to be nationally relevant, and I'm only comparing this to literally 3 or 4 teams. But that's the only 3 or 4 teams that it matters to compete with. And to me, that's sort of like the analysis of the entire program is Montana has certainly elevated itself to be better than everybody else.
Are they NDSU?
Are they as good as the teams you need to be as good as, right? I mean, that's it's really as simple as that.
Yeah.
Are you NDSU? Are you South Dakota State?
100%.
We'll see if South Dakota – I think South Dakota State has a chance to maybe take a step back now.
I do, too.
Because the whole thing that they built towards for not just the last handful of years, but, I mean, basically John Stiegelmeier's whole career – then he retires after winning the national championship and hands the keys to the Cadillac to Jimmy Rogers, and they keep it rolling. But now Jimmy Rogers is gone, and
he took everybody with him.
They took everybody with them, this whole staff, and they lose everybody that was been a reputable player at South Dakota State last couple of years is either graduated or transferred.
Yep.
So I don't know if SCSU is the same benchmark as they were, but North Dakota State certainly still is.
Yeah.
And Montana State has proven that they're neither of these things. They're not just the best of the rest, and they're also not as good as the top 2.
Yeah.
They're like alone in third, and they have been for 3 or 4 years. Can the Grizz at least get to there, if not above there? And to me, the number one factor that's holding them back is on the offensive front.
I would not disagree with you. I mean, it starts in the trenches. You got to be able to run the ball consistently, not just against the lower tier teams in the conference or in the subdivision. You got to be able to run it against the best, and that's what's going to start everything else. So without an offensive line, you're going to continue to see some of the things that you see. Because I mean, even when you aren't able to pass the ball, if you can lean on the run game,
that's right.
You're going to be all right.
No doubt. I mean, look at what we've seen the last couple of years. Everybody keeps asking me, Montana State, are they going to take a huge step back? They're probably going to be playing a young guy or a transfer at quarterback.
Yep.
And certainly, they're obvious. I mean, yes, the Cats are going to take a step back. They went undefeated last year. They're not going to go undefeated this year. That's pretty safe to say. Undefeated to the national championship game, obviously.
Right.
But I do think that's such an easier learning curve. Imagine how much Ayat's learning curve last year would have been eased if the Grizz are running for 330 yards a game like Montana State was.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple to operate an offense when 50 of the plays are just turn around and hand the ball to the running back and just let them roll, right?
And then the play actions are just, okay, no, there we go.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, me, right? How do you get there? So that all said, I do think the Grizz have some experience to build on the offensive line, too. You do lose your stalwart right tackle in Brandon Casey. To me, the number one position they got to figure out is center. I have no idea. I can't wait to see who's even playing center today. But they do return Dylan Botner, who got an extra year of eligibility.
Yep.
So he's a fifth-year guy who actually started quite a few games last year.
Liam
Brown is going into his third year as a starter. Mm-hmm. For me, he's now or never because he's been in the lineup. He's got the reps now. When he was recruited, he's a 3-star guy that was a huge recruiting get, and they broke in the lineup early.
Yeah.
Now that you're an upperclassman, you got to be an all-conference guy. You got to be like an all-American type of guy.
Yeah. You know what continues to hurt them? This is going to be the third year in a row they got another coach.
On the offensive line.
Yes.
Man, see, and I think that goes two ways, right? I think that I agree with you in terms of continuity and voices. I also think, though, if you have a cohesive offensive line culture that can carry no matter who the coach is, and we've seen this in Montana State.
Yeah.
They've had a very similar culture on their offensive line for 20 years.
Yeah.
And part of that's because they had the same offensive line coach for 14.
Yep.
Then Jason McAdoo went to Oklahoma State. But then since then, whether it was Jason Eck or Brian Armstrong or Al Johnson, and now handing it off to Matt Smith, who's a young guy, they haven't changed. This guy has to acclimate to them.
Yep.
Right? You have to learn how we do things around
Do you think
here.
it's like that at Montana, though?
That's
they still
that's the part is like I think that has been different because I do think Joe Pollock had a very much different way of doing things than Chad Germer.
Yeah.
I don't know how Cameron Norcross wants to do things, but I'm excited to see him.
Yeah.
I will say this: I know Pollock was an exciting hire because he's a really young coach and he had the Midwestern ties.
Yep.
And I think they were really excited about his ability to go recruit from the Midwest. He then jumps to take the money. Money and FBS credentials, but he's going to Western Michigan.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's going to some crazy powerhouse program. But
for his family.
Probably tripling his salary,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so, and I don't know. I never spoke to Joe Pollock in my life, so I can't put words in his mouth. If you're getting offered FBS jobs and FBS money at this point, it's hard to say no.
That's what it's about.
I mean, you're literally probably making $180,000 there at Western. Their offensive line coach last year made $185,000. So, like, how many of you guys out there saying no to that? I'm not. So, you get it. You definitely get it.
Yeah.
This new coach, though, Cameron Norcross, I don't know how much excitement you'd have from a recruiting perspective because he's a guy that's done it for a really long time. He doesn't really have a reputation as a recruiter as much as he does a developer and, just a hard-ass coach. But he has great experience. Like I said on the show earlier this week, if you come from Chris Alt's way of his coaching tree, Chris Alt was the head coach in Nevada for 38 years and had great success with the Wolfpack. You're going to fit in with Bobby Houck because those guys are from the old school. They do things very similarly.
Yep.
And Norcross coached for Coach Alt for 10 years. And he's got, SEC experience. He's got Mountain West experience. So he's had a lot of crossover with Coach Houck. To me, the Grizz, they have to just hone in. I mean, it comes down to three things: talent, mindset, culture. I think that their talent is better than it was when Coach Houck took over.
Yeah.
I still think it could be better, but I think that it's good. It's adequate enough.
Yep.
Then I think you just have to hone in the mindset and the culture.
Yeah.
How do you get there? Where do you get there? Who's going to be the tone setter for you? But you have those guys to build on. Cannon Pamphloff you have to mention as well because he's been in the program for 3 years now. He's been a good player. But this is what I'm always saying is good is not good enough. You need all three of those guys I just talked about to be all conference players.
Yep.
And then you need another guy to also be flirting with, if not bona fide, surefire all conference.
Yeah, they got to be dominant. They got to work as a unit, and it starts with the mindset, just like you're saying. I mean, where does that come from, though? This question.
Right. It's a really tough question because I think if the answer was really easy, Montana and to be fair, everybody else besides three teams in the country wouldn't be searching for it, right?
Yeah.
If it was this easy. I mean, Sac State's had some really talented individual offensive linemen, but they had the best guy in the league this last year in terms of pure talent, Jackson Slater.
The worst season.
They don't have the offensive line mantra whatsoever, and they have a great coach too.
Yep.
So there's a lot that goes into it. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, Samuel Kim, Coulter Nuanez, coming to you from Washington Grizzly Stadium. Second question, though, is aside of the offensive line, how much do you think this quarterback saga and the inability, or I guess lack of consistency in developing a quarterback from within the program, a young quarterback, how much do you think that is tied hand in hand with the offensive line?
Oh, is it tied? I don't know if I'd necessarily say it's tied with the offensive line, like it's tied in together. But I would say it's definitely something that has been causing strife within the Montana program.
Right.
I don't know why. I don't know if I can necessarily say that they're tied together, because, I mean, yes, the success of the quarterback is going to depend on how well the offensive line is blocking, how much time he has to throw the ball, all of that stuff. They all go hand in hand. But do I think that the lack of success that we've seen from the quarterback is due to the lack of, say, success from the offensive line? I don't know if that's necessarily tied together. I think they're one in their own. I think the offensive line has struggled in its own right, and I also think the quarterback position has been a struggle in its own right. And I think together they combine to make it look like a very difficult situation back there. But I think they're in their own lanes, I would say.
So when you were playing, this was at the beginning part of sort of the remaking of the Grizz football program into Bobby Houck's
RTD
Grizz football program, right? You guys, I mean, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. You guys were so much better on offense than what Montana has been on offense the last several years.
Yeah, we had some dogs.
Is it that? Is it just because of talent?
I don't know. Maybe. Maybe.
Remember the game? I can't remember. I think 2019 when UC Davis was like top 4 in the country, and you guys went to Davis.
Yeah, 2019.
Dalton Sneed threw 5 touchdowns. You had a couple. Samari Torrey had a couple.
We had a game. Jerry had a touchdown.
You guys, scored 49 points in that game.
Yeah, it was a good one. They were ranked like number 3.
We haven't seen the Grizz throwing the ball down the field that many times in a season that you guys did that day.
Yeah.
Is that just because of talent? Or is that a matter of mindset? Is that a matter of...
I don't know if it's necessarily talent. I think it's more schematic. I think they want to be a team that runs the ball.
Totally. I think that it's an addiction to leaning on your defense. It's an addiction to what way do you want to win.
Exactly.
I think back then you guys were like 2019 was the first sort of year where it started to cross over, where the defense got back to being pretty good, but they certainly weren't great yet. But you guys were great on offense.
Yeah.
I think Coach Houck knew it, and he said, "Hey, let's score 40 a game."
Yeah.
Then once the defense got really good, it went back to like let's score 30 a game.
Yeah.
Let's win 30-13. 31-7.
Yeah, let's win 10-7.
21-3. Bobby Houck's a dream score, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's just interesting, man. Like I just wonder. And part of it's, I get it. Part of it's personnel based, right? Yeah. You got a quarterback in Dalton Sneed who's a pro. You got a receiver in yourself and a receiver in Samari Torrey who are pros. Yeah. You got one of the most productive slot receivers in the last 10 years.
We had Marcus Knight at that time too.
You got an All-American running back. You got got Jerry Lou McGee, who's one of the most productive slots in the the history of the program.
And we had Gabe on that team. Gabe Sosa.
Yeah, totally.
Young Gabe Sosa.
No question. But last year the Grizz had Keelan White and Junior Bergen.
100%. I just don't think
there was the deep-throated Bergen against Eastern Washington. Yeah. Boom, right in the pocket. That was the last time they threw the ball deep.
Yeah. I just don't think they make a concerted effort to do that.
Which is just, it seems like a miss to me.
Yeah. Definitely.
I get it. You get what you emphasize. You want to be a ball control team, whatever. But you also, in college football, you got to find a way to get gash plays. You got to find a way to gash the defense. So we'll see. Maybe we'll see some down the field stuff today. Maybe we'll see the evolution. Maybe we'll see.
I would love that.
I would love that as well. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. We've also seen the emergence of the quarterback run game be such a pivotal part of college football in general, but also within the Big Sky Conference. And we saw it with Sac State when they went with the 2-quarterback system, and they had the guy in Asher O'Hara who could run it and the guy in Jake Dunaway who could throw it. We've seen it at Montana State with Tommy Mellott being first basically a glorified gun-run quarterback or running back basically, into then a real quarterback who's always a threat to run. And then we saw what happened with their offense this last year.
Oh yeah,
we've seen it with so many different teams. The Grizz have not had that guy that's like truly in the run game, zone read type of threat.
Well, Clifton.
So that's he's the one. He's the one season when they had that.
And they went on that.
And what happened? They went 13-2 and they went to the national championship.
Yeah.
How much do you think that needs to be a part of this offense for the Grizz?
I think you got to use it.
Because when I watch Ayat, I know Ayat looks flossy in the pocket. He holds the ball all nice. You can tell he's got like a lot of advanced training, and he come from a high level high school football. But to me, when I watch him, he's a zone read type of quarterback. He's an RPO type of quarterback.
Yep.
He can learn to move and groove in the pocket and do some quick game. But I just think that he's more like Tommy Mellott and less like Dalton Sneed than people think. I think that the perception is he's more like Sneed. He's not. I think he's more of a RPO. He's like Davis Alexander at Portland State. He could be a player like that. Remember him?
Yeah.
Remember Dante Olson almost ended his life
him out.
in Portland State. Davis Alexander knows a pro. I mean, he's a pro now. He's in the CFL. So, I don't know, man. I just think, and I get it. You don't want to wear a guy out. If that guy's your only option, you need to take the hits off of him. But also, like, what is the number one thing that has influenced and changed college football offenses over the last 10 years? It's the gun-run type of zone-read quarterback.
I don't think you build your entire offense around it, but I think it has to be a part of the scheme.
Totally.
You have to make the defense think about it.
Right.
And you have to do it on a consistent basis to make the defense think about it. So I think it's something that you definitely have to incorporate, especially with a guy like Ayat who can do it.
Totally. And I just think you got to develop that ball skill, too. Here's what I'm saying. I'm not saying run Ayat 20 times a game.
No.
I'm saying run zone read 25 times a game, though, and let Eli Gilman get 17 or 18 of those carries.
But that one time Ayat takes it for 60.
That's what I'm saying.
They're thinking about it.
Every once in a while, Ayat's got to keep it and and he has got to be able to read it, and that's going to open up literally everything in your offense. I just think I think he's got way more juice than people give him credit for.
He scored 4 rushing touchdowns
That's what
in the
I'm
game.
saying. And then he got hurt. And then I think that's where the hesitation to employ him like that comes from. But also, at that exact moment, I mean, he's like a 19-year-old kid. He hasn't really developed physically yet. So I get it. I see both sides. You don't want to run a guy to death. You don't want to run him out of any sort of confidence. You don't want to run him into the ground. But
I mean, NDSU was not afraid to run Cam Miller.
Exactly.
Ever. And he's not super fast.
No, Ayat has way more juice than Cam Miller.
You know?
Like, Ayat's a better athlete than Cam Miller.
But they made a concerted effort on a consistent basis to do it.
Totally.
So then that makes the defense think about it. And then when he does keep it, he's successful. He had an untouched touchdown against Montana State in the national championship game.
No doubt. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Shouts to our friends at Cash One Pawn. Cash One Pawn, the premier pawn shop in western Montana. From the market for anything, power tools, jewelry, speakers, outdoor equipment like fly fishing, stuff like that, but especially firearms. Go check out Cash One Pod. If you're shopping for a gun, go in there, look at their firearms, tell them I sent you, tell them you heard it on ESPN Radio. You can also always shop online. Cash One Pawn, that's cash1pawn.com. For the vast majority of my 20 years covering the Grizz, the questions have always centered upon, or at least had an entry point of, the offense. Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? What are the skill players going to be? What are the quarterbacks going to be?
Because of Dave.
Because you're like, the defense. The defense is going to be good. The defense at Montana was good pretty much always. And Bobby Hauck has always had a good to really good to sometimes elite defense.
Yeah.
Last year, the defense was at best average.
Average.
And so now the whole narrative has been, the narrative is both, right?
Yeah.
How do they get back to being great on offense? How do they get back to being great on defense? But I do think it's really interesting in terms of this year, because they had a lot to fix on defense, but I think a lot of it can be fixed just by having a whole fresh set of new faces.
Yeah.
What's more important to you, though, do you think, defensively? Is it about the emergence of guys that have been in the program for a long time that really haven't gotten the reps?
Mm-hmm.
Guys like Kellen Dietrich, for example, on the defensive line, or guys like Clay Oven or Hayden Opitz or Cy Stevenson, or linebacker. There's a variety. T.J. Roush at safety. Is it more important for those guys to become stars, or for the whole group of transfers that Montana brought in, or is it a combination of both?
I think it's sort of a combination of both, but I would think there's more value in the guys that have been in the system developing and becoming stars. Why do I say that? Because they've been hearing the message for the last 2-3 years. They've been in the system.
Sure.
They've been hearing the coach talk. They've seen the previous guys who were in the system and learning from them. I think when you bring in transfers, they don't always latch on to the culture. You hear Coach Hauck talk about it all the time.
Totally.
It takes maybe a year for a transfer to even get used to the system and really get into what they want to be in the system. I think when you have a young guy who's watched it happen for years and years, 2-3 years, I think it's easier. And I think it just means more to them because they wanted to be here from the jump. You know, bringing in a transfer, obviously they want to be here now, but I don't know. I think it makes more sense, and I think it means more when it's a younger guy.
Especially defensively, too, because so much of it is based on scheme.
Yep.
When we culture is such a used word all the time. People are always like, what is culture?
Yeah.
But for the Grizz on the defensive side, it's so much about understanding that the whole mechanism is about you doing your job and selling out in a certain way. And a lot of times, that means you are not making the play.
Exactly.
And that's where they got so out of sorts last year.
Everybody wanted to make the
So many
play.
of those new guys wanted to make the play. And all of a sudden, the run fit is all screwed up.
Yep.
And, like, we were hard on some of the guys that were some of the returners that were sort of stalwarts. But a lot of times, those guys were just trying to do too much because they're trying to make up for everybody else's mistakes. Like
That doesn't necessarily know the system.
Right. I talked to Ryan Tyrrell about this a lot. He's like, yeah, man, I know a lot of times I was in the wrong spot, but that's because I'm in the wrong spot because this guy's in the wrong spot, right? It's a delicate dance.
Do your job.
You got to figure out a way to get in the right spot.
Yep.
I just wonder how much they emphasize that because I think last year, the transfer group they brought in was risky because when you go to the Natty, you only got 6 days to put that together.
Yeah.
When you lose in the second round, ironically, it's actually better for you in recruiting. It shouldn't be like that, but it's true.
Yep.
There's a reason Montana State didn't take anybody out of the portal this last year because they only had 6 days, and Brett Megan's like, we're not doing that. We're not going to bring in a bunch of dudes
that we haven't vetted.
That we haven't vetted and that we haven't gone through it.
Yeah.
This year for the Grizz, at least they had a month instead of a week.
Yeah.
So that's been the talk so far, is that these guys fit it better in terms of understanding the sacrifice that it requires. But
what part of that, though, I hear that you're putting all your energy into the season.
Yeah.
But what part of that has to come from the staff, that maybe they start to recruit towards the end of the season, see some of those people who are jumping in the portal?
100%.
That may have to be the model now going forward if you want to go deep into the season.
There's the other factor, too, where some of the transfers Montana brought in last year were not plug-and-play one-and-done guys. They were guys that are young.
Yeah.
That they just wanted to get in the system. The two main guys I'm watching tonight are Jake Mason, who's number 57, and Caleb Okalewski, who's number 46. Both those guys are FBS drop-downs. Mason was from Washington. Okalewski was from San Diego State. Yep. They were both redshirt freshmen last year. They both played, and I thought they flashed.
Yeah.
They both sort of battled it. Lucy got hurt, and so he was battling that too. But those are the type of guys where, okay, they're pinned as transfers when they first come here.
But they're young guys.
They're going to be 4-year guys if you can just hang on to them and continue to develop them.
Well, if they blow up, they'll probably transfer.
For sure. I wonder about that part too, though, man, because it's so hard to blow up in this system unless you play one of 3 spots.
Yeah.
If you're a man-to-man corner, you're going to get a bunch of opportunities.
Yeah.
You're going to either have a bunch of film where you're getting dunked on or a bunch of film where you got a bunch of picks. If you're one of the inside linebackers, you can put up mad numbers, and if you're one of the safeties that runs the alley, like the Robbie Houck guy, you can put up numbers.
Yeah.
The guys that are playing on the edge, I guess if you're playing that outside spot that Patrick O'Connell and Riley Wilson, you can put up numbers there too. Everybody else, like Jake Mason ain't putting up numbers. So is he going to really go transfer somewhere? I don't know. I mean, because it's also hard to find film that's applicable to that.
Yeah.
Like you're playing in this scheme, like not a lot of people are running this scheme. Yep. So, Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. What position groups for the Grizz are set? What position groups do we think have question marks? And who are we going to be watching tonight? About half an hour from the Grizz spring game. Samuel and Kim, Coulter and Nuanez live from Washington Grizzly Stadium. Don't change that now. Keep it right here. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
So will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again. Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.
When you buy tires at Les Schwab, you're getting more than just tires. You're getting America's best tire warranty, 60-day satisfaction guarantee, no hassle road hazard protection, and free maintenance for the life of your tires. So if something happens to your tire on the road, we'll fix it, or we'll replace it, no questions asked. Other places make you pay extra for that kind of protection, but at Les Schwab, it's included with every set of tires, because more warranty means less worry, and nobody stands by their tires like Les Schwab. Get more from Les.
take off.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Montana football's spring camp wraps up with the annual Grizz Spring Game this evening. Hello, I'm Andrew Houghton. Kickoff for the annual showcase is set for 6 p.m. at Washington Grizzly Stadium, and the scrimmage is likely to run for around 80 to 90 plays. Most of the intrigue around this year's spring game is focused on the large class of transfers that the Grizzlies imported this offseason. That includes former USC quarterback Jake Jensen, who will lead the Maroon team on Friday alongside returning stalwarts like All-American running back Eli Gilman, offensive lineman Dylan Botner, and safety TJ Roush. Redshirt sophomore quarterback Keali'i Ayat will start for the Silver team after throwing for over 1,100 yards and accounting for 14 total touchdowns in part-time duty a year ago. Transfers to watch on offense include former Arizona State wide receiver Corbin Hendricks, former Eastern Washington all-purpose star Michael Wortham, and 2 new tight ends, Titus Rohrer from Tennessee and Josh Gale from UC Davis. On defense, the new names to watch include Hunter Peck, a pass rusher who was the Frontier Conference Defensive Player of the Year last fall at Carroll, as well as former Utah State defensive tackle Braden Bailey, former Eastern Illinois linebacker Elijah Tolbert, and former BYU safety Micah Harper. For a comprehensive preview of this year's Grizz Spring Game, tune in to Nuanez Now at 4 p.m. on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
This is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
I'm off a tab with a synthetic sundown, 45 minutes till the check it for the kid, I had to chin check him, big move, and we teaching big lessons over here. 2-4 coming heavy like we bench pressing, then I'm going.
We got a few Grizz on the field, and now they're playing some highlights up on the scoreboard, so we're getting closer. 32 minutes, says the scoreboard, and counting to the beginning of the Grizz Spring Game, an annual occurrence here. They used to move this thing around all the time, but tonight, Washington Grizzly Stadium here in Missoula. Colter Nuanez, Samuel Akem coming to you through the Washington Grizz Stadium press box here on the University of Montana campus. When you were playing, they moved it around a lot. Did you like that?
I did, because I got to play in Butte.
Right?
Yeah, cool stadium. We played at Kalispell as well.
Yep.
That stadium's whatever, but it was really cool to play in Butte Stadium.
Yeah, for sure.
It was.
And again, Butte always shows out, so you got a bunch of fans there afterwards.
It was a good time. It was a good time.
All right, well, let's talk what we want to see tonight. Here comes a couple other guys. The kickers are out here.
Linebackers.
And now we got some real players, some real football guys. I kid. It's funny, I put on the outline that the Grizz are set at running back and everything else is sort of up in the air right now. I will amend that statement. I think the Grizz are set at punter and kicker, too.
Yeah.
I think Ty Morrison's a great returner. I think that he was actually underrated, one of their best players last year.
Yeah. I thought he had a good season. I thought he was solid for when they needed him. But, I feel like also the opportunities where they were really dependent on him were slim, I feel, last year.
Yeah, right, totally.
But it's a good thing if you don't have to think about the kicker. So
no doubt. The running backs position begins with Eli Gilman, who was all-conference player a year ago.
Yep.
Malai Fanote showed great flashes in his limited action as a freshman last year. And Stevie Rocker, I think, is pretty solid. I think he could be good if he got more opportunities. I think he will now that Nick Osmo is moving on. So do you feel like that position is set? And
I feel like running back solid. I feel like with Eli Gilman, I feel like with Malai Fanote, and I feel like with Stevie Rocker, you definitely can say that's the most solid position on the field for the Grizz.
Everything else, though, up in the air, so let's just go through it. Quarterbacks is going to be a huge point of analysis tonight.
Yep.
Keali'i Ayat has been in and out of spring ball. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury, but he's expected at least to play tonight. That's what the press release said, so he'll be manning up the white team. Jake Jensen, transfer from USC, will be headed up the maroon team. Do you think it's wise for the Grizz to have another quarterback competition?
I mean, yeah.
Is that how you push Ayat forward?
Yeah, because you don't want him to just think that I got the job.
Right.
You want him to push. You want him to work hard. You want him to, you want him to feel the pressure a little bit.
Sure.
Now, if he had, it's different because if you had done something to show that you deserve to have the job, no questions asked, that's different. I don't think he's necessarily done that. So I do think you leave it up to competition. Now, if there's an instance where he's unequivocally the best guy in spring ball, then you go with that going into fall camp. But I think with spring ball, you definitely leave it up to a competition. And if nobody wins it in spring ball, you keep it a competition going into the fall.
When it comes to Jensen, what are you going to be watching tonight?
Is he accurate? Is he on time? Is he getting the ball to his receivers? I mean, all of it. Just seeing how he operates the offense, seeing how the offensive line reacts to him, all that stuff.
And how they respond to him. Yeah, that's the number one thing I'm going to be watching. Because it's so tough when you get in these scenarios. Because as we know, Bobby Houck likes to sort of mess with the way that the flow goes. He always puts whoever, in my experience, the guy who he thinks is the leader in the clubhouse at the moment at quarterback is going to be behind the third-string offensive line and going against the first-team defense, right? Yeah. Show me what you got when you're at a complete disadvantage. Whoever that guy is going to be throwing to all the freshman receivers, and then the veteran receivers are going to be over here catching passes from the other guy who maybe is the number 2 or number 3 at the time. I mean, we saw this last year. Caden Hewitt came in and came out of spring ball as the number 3 quarterback, but he was the star of this spring game because he was the one throwing to Aaron Fonts, and Junior Berger was out last year, but Aaron Fonts and Keelan White behind the starting offensive line, whereas, Ayat was with all the rest of the freshmen throwing to, all the third and fourth string receivers.
Everybody came out of the spring game thinking, should we be looking at Caden Hewitt?
No doubt, right? And now here he is playing in the Frontier Conference.
Right.
So that's the other thing is when it comes to tonight, I think you say grain of salt for sure. Like, a lot of this is going to be hard to evaluate. They do this in an effort to get a competitive situation for the players, but they also do this for the fans.
Yep.
There's not going to be a lot of complicated stuff that we see tonight, I don't think.
Very basic offense, very basic defense. Also, they've been hitting each other for a month.
Right.
I mean, let's get out of this day healthy and get into the offseason and really start to grind and form our team for the fall.
My biggest question when it comes to watching the offense is at center. Who's going to play center? There doesn't seem to be a ready-made next guy.
Yeah.
They had a guy who I thought was good, plus in A.J. Forbes, and he was a 3-year starter.
Oh, yeah.
And then last year they were a mess at center until they fixed it, and they moved Cade Klimzak there, and he was at least good, like he's adequate.
Yeah.
Who's going to be that guy today? I don't know. Who's going to be that guy going forward to the 2025 season? I think that's the biggest question mark on the entire offense.
I think that gets so lost in offensive play as the center. I mean, that is the quarterback of the offensive line.
Totally.
They got to run everything. They're making all the calls.
Pre-snap fronts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is a huge position right there.
When you also just it's such a key cog within the actual operation of your offensive line. It's such a key cog in the blocking scheme.
Yep.
But it's also such a key cog in terms of the belief, the communication, and it's just like you just said. If nobody's talking about the kicker and the punter, that's a good thing. That means they're solid. It's the same thing with the center, man. You gotta be money all the time. It's one of the only spots where you are expected to be perfect. You have to be perfect for the offense to operate. Tight ends is an interesting one. I mean, they got so many dudes because Evan Schaefer's back. He's out on the field right now. He looks good physically. Jake Olson's back, so both those guys have played a lot these last couple of years. They bring in Tyson Rocher, the big tight end out of Tennessee, who's like 6'7", and was a former 4-star guy. They bring in Josh Gale, who was a very productive player at UC Davis.
Yeah.
That's one of the most bizarre transfers in the league to me.
Going to UC Davis,
I just don't know why you go from UC Davis to Montana if you're a pass-catching tight end, because the tight ends in Montana the last couple of years haven't catch the ball. They've been inline type of blocking guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Gale caught like 40 passes. I just don't know why. I mean, Davis loves the tight end. I don't know why you would leave that, but maybe he thinks the next step to his pro prospects is learning how to play inline tight end. I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to get an eye on him.
Well, you'd have to also, maybe he didn't have any other better offers.
Sure.
You know, maybe Montana was the best. He's thinking about winning.
It's just crazy to leave UC Davis. UC Davis is better than Montana last year. They straight up came to Washington Grizzly Stadium and won, man. I don't know.
You're right.
They made it to the quarterfinals of the playoffs, and I don't know. It's an interesting one, but I think it's a good get for Montana as well. I mean, that's the other thing. We can sit here and hammer on the things that we would do differently as the offensive coordinator of the Grizz or whatever.
Yeah.
But like my brother always says, throw the ball to the tight end, man. Like, it's just such an easy thing to do.
Yeah, they're going to get you 5.
Totally.
They're going to get you 5 for sure.
Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. Question marks across the board offensively, but I do think that there's a lot of potential answers to these question marks, especially at the offensive skill like I don't know who is going to be the guys at receiver, but they're going to find some guys that are at least good at the Big Sky Conference level.
Oh, yeah.
Running back, they're set.
Yep.
Tight end, I don't know who, but they're going to find some guys that can.
They got enough guys in there to find a few.
They can find some guys who'd be good. So to me, it just comes down to the offensive line, and I do think they have good places to start around. The other thing is Everett Johnson's another guy we got to name. Everett Johnson's the transfer from Cal, who started some games last year too. So you got 4 guys that have started games. You just got to make them come together, and you got to find the guy that's going to snap the ball right there in the middle. On the defensive side, question marks everywhere. We'll take one last break. We'll come back. We'll analyze all 3 levels of the Grizz defense. Samuel Akem, Coulter Nuanez, a little Grizz spring game. Live from Washington Grizzly Stadium. Back right after this.
At Shields, we're anglers, endlessly seeking and refining techniques. We're hunters and storytellers, because we've been out there. We're experts that put products and gear to the test so we can share that knowledge with you. At Shields, we understand your outdoor journey and the path you're on, because we walk it too, every step of the way. Shields, right there with you.
When you buy tires at Les Schwab, you're getting more than just tires. You're getting America's best tire warranty, 60-day satisfaction guarantee, no hassle road hazard protection, and free maintenance for the life of your tires. So if something happens to your tire on the road, we'll fix it, or we'll replace it, no questions asked. Other places make you pay extra for that kind of protection, but at Les Schwab, it's included with every set of tires, because more warranty means less worry, and nobody stands by their tires like Les Schwab. Get more from Les.
Attention, your locally owned and nationally known mattress firm thanks the Missoula community for 10 years of amazing support and growth. There's a huge remodel sale blowout before the doors close for their 2-week remodel. All inventory must go. Mattresses, adjustable bases, accessories, all drastically marked down to clear the showroom. Save it to 60% off on top name brands. If you've been waiting for that amazing deal, now is the time. Mattress Firm's remodel sale only April 1st through the 15th.
Where it's easy to get a great night's sleep.
Family to the Stone of Accord for a wonderful brunch. From traditional comfort food to eclectic specials, there's something for everyone to enjoy. And it wouldn't be a proper Missoula brunch without an Irish coffee and a mimosa. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair. Restaurant, liquor store, and casino. At the Stone of Accord, we use the freshest ingredients to create our homemade traditional Irish classics, fresh salads, and creative specials. Come enjoy our warm, family-friendly atmosphere. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair. Restaurant, liquor store, and casino.
Nuanez Now on ESPN Radio.
Well, now pretty much all of them are out here, and we are scrambling, trying to look at roster numbers. It's crazy how many faces change and how many guys change numbers in the span of an offseason this day and age in college football. Coulter Nuanez, Samuel Akem, live here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. We're live from Washington Grizzly Stadium, about 20 minutes from the beginning of the Grizz spring game. Appreciate UM Athletics for letting us post up here in the press box. We're also streaming on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitch, all that sort of stuff. So appreciate you tuning in no matter how you are tuning in. We broke down the offense last segment, Sammy, but you mentioned one guy that we didn't talk about. that I think could actually play a huge role in every single element of this.
Oh, yeah. Michael Wortham from Eastern Washington was probably the best kick returner in the conference last year.
I mean, he's a second-team All-American, and there's only one first-team All-American, so he's top 2 in the country.
Best kick returner in the conference last year. Can't give him the punt returner title. He was at Montana. But just a phenomenal athlete. One thing I think they struggle with at Eastern Washington is giving him a position. I feel like he played a lot, running back, receiver.
They were so obsessed with running like 3 different quarterbacks out there, and they had multiple Wildcat cornerbacks, and he just didn't get – I think the dude is a dude where you get the ball to him 15 times. I just don't know if the Grizz have that in them to actually do that with any player, but we digress. I think Wortham is lightning in a bottle. I think he could be very good.
Yeah, if they're willing to use him, I think he's going to be a star this year.
I think that's right, too. I also – Bobby Hauck has been prone to take the load off of his returners.
Yeah.
Malik Flowers went through this his whole career.
Yeah.
Could hardly get an offensive touch because he was, they're always loading up for the big kick return.
Big kick return, yep.
I get it. And Bobby Hauck, to his credit, gets you that big kick return more often than not. But I think Wortham could be a dynamic playmaker, certainly, for this Grizz team. To me, everything I'm watching starts in the trenches tonight, and then on defense. We broke down the offensive line. The defensive line, man, oh man, this is a total mystery to me, and I think that it's going to take some good fortune and, honestly, some good luck. The Grizz are going to have to hit on some of the guys that they brought in because they lose Hayden Harris, Noah Cashmitter, Pat Hayden, Anders Lehrman, and Hank Deuce from last year's defensive front. That's basically the guys that played all the snaps.
Yep.
Jared Ramos and Jake Mason were the other 2 guys that were in the rotation just a little bit.
Otluski a little bit, too.
And Caleb Otluski.
But he's a backer, right?
And he's more like an outside. Yeah, he's like the edge guy.
Wow.
But in terms of those 3 defensive line spots, it was mostly just Mason and Ramos who got reps. Other guys who have been in the program who have really not seen the field include Kellen Dietrich from Havre, who's now a senior. Jackson Tucker, who was highly regarded coming out of high school, Billings West. But he had a shoulder injury that caused him the gray shirt, and he hasn't really been able to crack the lineup at all. He's a great high school athlete, period, but just hasn't really been able to get it done at the college level yet. R.B. Wilson is a JC transfer last year who I thought looked the part all day long in fall camp, but came in and was not close to the physical conditioning that Bobby Hauck wants, and when that happens,
you get on the bad
camp,
list.
Like you just don't get reps, so you can't compete. Sloan McPherson's a Montana guy, former Class C high school star who's lasted all the way to his 5th year as a senior. Is he ready to actually get on the field and contribute? And then Matai Bataafa, who's a former Mississippi State transfer, he's been in the mix a little bit too, but hasn't really put up any sort of numbers. So when it comes to this group, how much of it is just having depth? How much of it is these guys emerging? What's going to be the key for the defensive line for this Grizz team?
I feel like today, in today's age, it's become such a depth position to where you need a first unit and a second unit, and they're all going to play big snaps.
Yep.
I think more so they need the whole group to be good than they need a certain 3 to be good. I think they need to be good as a unit. They all need to depend on each other, and I think that's going to how they're going to have to do it because, I don't think you're going to ever have a Alex Gubner type situation at that position anymore.
But why not? If this is the defense you're going to run, there should be no excuse to have anything but an Alex Gubner situation. Yeah, you should have an Alex Gubner sitting behind Alex Gubner ready to take that spot over.
But Alex Gubner, we hadn't seen an Alex Gubner before Alex Gubner.
Right, but if you're going to run this position, you should have that guy locked down. It's just like the old school 3-4 defenses in the NFL. If you're going to run it, you better have Haloti Nata, and you better have another guy right next to him, right? Like,
where is that guy at, though?
Man, but if you're in this system, though, you recruit to it.
Yeah.
You say, look at this guy. Look what he did.
Yeah.
He's the defensive player of the year in the league without even getting any statistics because of the impact he was able to make.
Yeah.
I just feel like you sell out and get that guy. Here's the thing. When they knew they were going to run this defense, what they do? They sold out and got that guy who's a 4-year starter.
Yeah.
You should have another guy waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
It's not that big of an ask for Montana to go get that guy once every 4 years. I'm not saying you should recruit him every year, but you should have one guy waiting in the wings right after the next guy.
Maybe that's a problem in recruiting.
No question. I just think you got to put a high priority on it. I just think that's just got to be a priority for your football team if you're going to continue to run this defense.
I think the unit on the whole just has to be good, though.
The transfers that we're looking at that will be out here today, Gio Pifferini, who's a junior college guy who's got great size, but I have no idea in terms of his ability to hang in a D1 competition.
Yep.
Hunter Peck is the former Frontier Conference Player of the Year out of Carroll College. I'm fascinated by this one because I think this could go one of two ways. Like, this guy could be like an absolutely polished veteran type of instant impact player because he's played such a high level at a way lower level, or it could be that lower level was way too low of a level and he might just be a splash player. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. It's interesting. I like the points that you made. Either he's a star and he looks ready and he just meshes into the defense, fine, or he gets washed and it's a little too much for him. I think it's interesting because if he balls out, what does that do for the rest of the guys in the Frontier Conference? Is that going to be like a hot spot for Montana recruiting? I don't know. So I think he's got a lot of weight on his shoulders right now, trying to put the rest of the Frontier Conference guys looking to go up to D1. But I'm intrigued. I want to know what's going to happen. I want to see how he's going to play and see if he. I don't know. Also, another piece of it is it's so hard to get info at the spring game because of how the way Coach Out does it.
No, totally. This is why I always say I'm watching the lines, though, because there is no schematics that go into who's battling.
Yep.
Right? Can you hang?
Yep.
Like when you're Hunter Peck, he's going to get reps today. I don't know how many, but he's going to get some.
Yep.
When he's going against Cannon Pamphilov, or he's going against Dylan Botner, or he's going against whoever else is playing tackle or guard, like, can he win? Can he get off blocks? Can he run to the ball? You can tell all that sort of stuff. The other transfer that's going to be in action tonight, at least hopefully, is Braden Bailey, who's on paper massive. I mean, you're talking a Utah State transfer who came in listed at 6'2", 305 pounds. I've heard from spring practices that he was behind conditioning-wise, too, so we'll see if that's caught up at all. That's the other part. When I'm hammering on Montana to have the next guy ready in terms of Alex Gubner, well, they beat Colorado State for Jared Ramos.
Yeah.
So when's Ramos take the next step?
Yeah.
Like, at some point, as the coaches, as the staff, as the strength program, all that, you got to have guys ready to take the next step.
Yeah. They got to damn near be nipping at the nipping at the heels of the guy in front of them the year before they're done.
See, that's the thing, is that was such a trademark of Bobby Hauck's program, is they would always have two starting defensive ends. This is back when they used to run a four-man front.
Yep.
They would have two starting defensive ends that were two of the best players in the country at that spot. But they would always have two other guys right behind them. And they would put those guys in on third downs just to set the crowd on fire. And so many of the Grizz defensive ends would be high sack number guys, even though they're only playing 20 snaps a game, as young guys. And then when the guy in front of them graduated, now it's your turn.
Yep.
Like, this is exactly how Croy Bierman cut his teeth. Tim Bush, Mike Murphy, Dustin DeLuey. I mean, Jace Palmer. There were so many guys like that, and they got to get back to that part. The other guy that I think is going to be a big impact player on the D line, who's not here yet, is DJ Peavy. He's a USC transfer who they brought in, but he has not reported yet. He's got to finish up something in school to get here. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, Samuel Kim, Coulter Nuanez live from the Washington Grizz press box. Listening to the show, you can always find it on the podcast, probably presented by the M Store, where they're all Grizz all the time. The Montana State Bookstore, your best place for blue and gold on game day or any other day, and Elevated Tax, elevating you and your business with a modern professional touch. Grizz Jacks are in the books, 11 minutes left on the scoreboard clock, so we're getting close to it. The last spot, it's the secondary. We could go through all the different names, but they lose everybody at safety.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there is not a guy that's played besides T.J. Rouse that's coming back at safety for the Grizz.
They got Keon Loud.
Keon Loud is a great player at corner for sure.
Yeah.
He's a stalwart at the other side, on the outside. But safety, they lose Jackson Lee, Ryder Meyer, Tyson Rostad hung it up early. Jace Kluswich hung it up early. That's all their safeties from a year ago. So who's the guys that step in there? That's where I think that's the number one spot I think the transfers got to hit.
Yep.
I think Micah Harper, the kid who was an All-American at BYU when he was a freshman but hasn't played in multiple years, he's got to hit.
Yeah.
I don't think you bring in a transfer from Idaho like the Wilkinson kid unless you expect him to play immediately.
Yep.
I think he's got to hit too. And then at the corner spot, they tried to fix that spot last year with transfers. Yeah. Those guys didn't grasp it. Nope. Prince Ford, Kenzel Lawler, they didn't do it. But they stuck around. So maybe now is the time they get the next step.
Yep.
So to me, we talked about the cohesive nature of the offensive line, the quarterbacks, how one goes hand in hand with the other. To me, for this defense to work, you got to have guys that can guard on the back end. You got to have guys that can play man. Because if you can, now all your pressure stuff up front works. The pressure is going to help the guys on the back end, but the back end guys are going to help the pressure way more.
It all plays hand in hand.
I think that the coverage is more important than the front, though.
It is.
Because look at how much more pressure the Grizz could get, like when you were playing, when they had lockdown corners. When it's Justin Ford and Corbin Walker, you're getting 60 sacks because you can just blitz all day, and those guys got it.
Yeah.
When you're giving up, I mean, look at what happened last year. They had to fundamentally rebuild the entire defense and take all the pressures out of it because they couldn't play man.
Yeah.
Like when Richie Munoz came in here and looked like freaking Johnny Unitas and threw for 350 yards and 6 touchdowns on a terrible Weber team that threw, I mean, they ran the Grizz off of this field, and they weren't even a good passing team. But to the Grizz credit, they changed it. They switched that around. They fixed it. So, to me, though, if any of those guys or all of those guys, I think Loud's the leader in the clubhouse, can emerge as a real deal cover, man-to-man, lockdown corner, that unlocks so many things for the Grizz defense.
They need it. They need it bad. They need a lockdown corner. They need coverage. I mean, coverage is going to open up everything else. I mean, it's so funny because we've been having this conversation. Every one offensive D-line is going to help the DBs and safeties. The linebackers are going to help the D-line. The linebackers are also going to help the safeties. It's like everything needs to work together for it all to mesh together and for them to be a good football team. So I think the biggest point we're getting at is they need a lot to work in order for it all to come together and fit.
Happy spring game, everybody. Colter Nuanez, Samuel Kim coming to you live from Washington Grizzly Stadium. We're about 8 minutes from the beginning of this spring scrimmage. We'll have full reaction and full sound for you on Monday. In the meantime, have yourself a wonderful weekend. Thanks so much for listening to Nuanez Now. We'll see you at 4 p.m. on Monday. Thanks to Andrew Houghton back at the studio for producing as well. Have a fun Friday evening. Have a great weekend and be good. We'll see you on Monday. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
You recycle. You ride your bike to work. Need